It is always game day in Cleveland, brought to you by our friends at Smiley One and Bryant, Northeast Ohio's premier heating and cooling service. He's Daryl Ryder. I am Andy Baskin, and we are still feeling good after the Browns' big 19-17 win over the San Francisco 49ers. Daryl, how do you feel almost 24 hours after the game?
Well, I just had to check my calendar to see where we were in the season. Look, the defense is legit. I don't think that there's any haters or doubters anymore. With
Even Dante Whitner changed his tune. Dante, who said the only way the Browns could win is if it snowed. It came close. It rained. But...
Yeah, it did rain a little bit, even though the guys on our pregame show on the station laughed at me when I told them to stay dry. They're like, our apps are telling us it's not going to rain. Sure as can be. I walk into the stadium and the heavens open and it starts raining, and it rained on and off throughout that game on Sunday. But no, I mean, look, you feel really, really good about where this defense is. They seem to be really, really motivated to prove the quote unquote, the haters and the doubters wrong. But what I'm most curious about now, and we'll get into it in this podcast, Andy, is, can they stand prosperity? Because the narrative is changing about this defense now. Not as many haters, a lot more believers all of a sudden for some reason. I don't know why. Maybe it was the fact that they held the 49ers to a season low 17 points or a season low in yardage. The third down conversion rate was just incredible, right? The fact that they're putting up historic numbers, which we'll get into in this podcast. So that's what I'm now going to be curious. Can they sustain this going forward as they start getting the pats on the back? Because it's easy for coaches to go into a room and say, everybody thinks you guys suck. Everyone thinks you're going to just get slaughtered, which is what they did last week.
Do they have to make that face for all of our friends that are watching on YouTube? Do you have to like one eye low, one eye high, and then you got to talk like this because you got scurvy. You didn't have any fruit.
And then we're going to get the clicker here, and we're going to show you right here on the monitor. Here's what everyone's tweeting right now, and this is what they're saying about you. But
we don't read any of that stuff. I don't read the media. We don't read any of that.
I'm going to give Juan Thornhill some credit and some love because, as he said after the game Sunday, he's like, I know that everyone says that they don't read anything or they don't see anything. He goes, that is such a lie. We read everything. We see everything. And I'm really pissed that none of you picked us to win this game. And y'all thought we were just going to go out and get our butts whooped.
We thought you were getting rolled by 40, my friend.
Yeah.
And by the way, if that missed field goal doesn't happen early and the adjustments don't happen, it felt like we were going that way early in the game.
Well, that first drive, right? I mean, if 5 plays, 84 yards in the blink of an eye, and it's 7-0, you're like, the game just started. Why is it 7-0 already? But I give
it should have been 14-0.
Well, yeah, it should have been. And God bless PJ Walker, but let's hope that he doesn't have to start many more games. But yeah, I mean, this defense has found a way to really kind of take some body blows and bounce back. And I mean, they gave up 84 yards on the opening drive, Andy, and the rest of the game they gave up 131 and 10 points. And just an incredible – and look, you have to get lucky, right? I mean, we talked about this on the postgame podcast. And I, texted with some friends and some relatives today about it because they're all, for whatever reason, like they just feel the need after every Browns game just to, bust my marbles about whether the Browns win or lose. And it's like, look, I got no skin in the game. I mean, I'm not rooting against the team. Obviously my life is a little easier if they're winning because everybody's in good moods and wants to talk and things like that. But look, that is a game that normally the Browns lose in heartbreaking fashion, right? That field goal always seems to go in. And it didn't this time. For once they got lucky, and you have to get a little lucky. Even the good teams get lucky, right? Your championship teams. So it was nice to see the Browns get a little lucky and win a game that no one thought that they should win. They're now 3-2. We're not sitting here talking about what do they have to do to climb out of a hole, right? They kind of kept pace within the division, which is good. They go to Indianapolis next weekend here where they're taking on a Colts team that's got Gardner Minshew, and they got their own issues that they're dealing with in Indianapolis. So again, my thing when it comes to the defensive side of the ball is not so much proving themselves now, because I think they've done that, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's now, can they sustain it and maintain that same level through the balance of the schedule? I'm not expecting that they're going to continue to put up these historic numbers that we're going to talk about, but and until
I don't know, Daryl, if they stay healthy, I think that's a real I think it's a
so?
possibility. Yeah, but they have to stay healthy, and I think that's even harder than beating San Francisco.
Yeah, well, because you have no control over it, right?
Right.
I mean, there's only so much stretching and physical therapy and good dieting stuff you can do. I mean, look what happened to Deshaun, right? He didn't do anything wrong. He got hit. And
Can I ask you a question? Did you hear what Jake Glazer said about talking to Kevin Stefanski? Jake Glazer said, I talked to Kevin Stefanski and he told me that it is basically a bruise that is under the rotator cuff. And Dan Mennigan brought up a good point on our show today. It's like, why doesn't Kevin say that stuff to the Cleveland media? You guys ask exactly the same questions.
And see, that's the thing that kind of gets under my skin a little bit, because, we will be sitting in the building and there are times where we have to find stuff out on social media. And I just think that that's disrespectful towards us. It's nice that he says our name and acknowledges us when we're asking him questions and stuff like that. But like, if it's coming from you, don't give us this, well, I'm just day to day, I'm not going to get into specifics. Well, you got into specifics with Jay Glazer. Just repeat to us what you told Jay Glazer, right?
Well, isn't that the fair question on Wednesday? Can you tell us what you told Jay Glazer?
Well,
because this is what Jay's saying. Is it fair?
Yeah, and so here's a little inside football thing. So we're doing the day after Zooms with Kevin, and
right.
And so we have to do the raise our hand and all that, wait our turn.
Right.
Well, they came to me second. I was not. I'm never second. Like there's a hierarchy that it goes with who asks questions in what order. So they came. I actually got caught off guard, and they went to me second. And I wasn't prepared to ask any Deshaun questions because he didn't. He has made it abundantly clear he's not going to tell us anything, even though we cover the team on a day-to-day basis. He's saving that for the national insiders. And day to day, and we'll see how he is, and he's making progress. So, before we start recording this podcast, I'm putting together my daily brownie bites from our Monday availability here, and my lead is this. This just in: Deshaun Watson remains day to day. The quarterback status remains unchanged because nothing has changed in the match, right? He didn't say he's going to practice on Wednesday. We'll see. We don't come on out Wednesday and see if he's on the field type of thing or whatever, right? So we've been hearing for the last 2 weeks or so that he's making progress. We've been hearing that he's day-to-day and all that kind of stuff. So, I'm not focusing a lot on Deshaun Watson right now because there's no new news, right? There's no new news there. So, when it's appropriate, we'll dwell on Deshaun Watson, but right now it's just there's nothing new to report except for what Kevin decides to tell Jay Glazer and not tell us.
I don't know if you saw this tonight. Buddy of mine just sent this to me. It's actually Chris Rose's brother, Bob. He sent me the headline of the San Francisco, I think it's Chronicle, their newspaper today. Awesome headline. The headline is Moody Blues.
Ooh.
After Moody missing it, but then it's also the Browns are the Knights in white satin, right?
Nice.
Yesterday because they were all white. So I thought that was pretty good. I also thought it was I read a headline today from Fox how the Eagles and Niners beat themselves. And I was like, come on, man, you're not going to give the Browns defense anything. I got to give Jason Garrett credit because he's been saying since week 1 against Cincinnati that the Browns are guided by their defense. And and when he said that, I had a ton of respect for him. Yeah. Right out of the gate because there's somebody who's actually doing some homework on the team and not just randomly throwing stuff out. Dante Whitner had to backtrack on everything he had to say last week. And even prior to the game, the morning show played all those cuts, just talking about how the Browns haven't, that defense, you might think they're good, but they're not. They played all these teams that are in the 20s with the exception of, I don't even, Cincinnati? No, the Ravens. That would be 16th best offense in the NFL, and then he retracted it with a tweet, a 2-line tweet. So if life's all about getting clicks, he got a ton of them last week. And by the way, he kind of sold me on some of the stuff because, I had talked to several people and I wasn't all gloom and doom, but I also wondered who the quarterback was going to be after 2 weeks. And I kind of got sucked into it too. I'm like, there's no way. But then a part of it is, I think it's your Browns shield that you put up every week as a Browns fan, because you're like, all right, I'm going to expect the worst. And if anything better happens, then I'm going to be cool with it. It'll be good. Right.
Yeah. And look, it's unfortunately a lot of our business today is all about look at me, right? Get the clicks, get the eyeballs, get the ears, say something outlandish or whatever to generate the whatever they call it, not interaction,
Clicks.
whatever.
Yeah.
No, just the hell's the word I'm trying to interaction, the clicks, the engagement. That's the
engagement.
word.
Oh,
Yes.
That's a big 50 cent consultant word. Where's your engagement? Did you see how they're doing it in Topeka? Why aren't you doing it that way in Cleveland? That's how they do it in Topeka.
I figured if I kept going that it would just finally pop into my head, but that's what it is. Yeah, but no, I mean, that is a big part of what our business is becoming these days. Even with, some of these sideline former players, right?
Right.
Calling guys trash and, saying,
what are you expecting from them, though? That's the only thing.
You know what I mean? It's like, the reason you're there is because you've been in those situations. Why don't you explain to me why they're not very good or they're not playing very well? Which I do, because it's part of my job, but I can sit here and say if a guy's not any good. But you as a former player, as an analyst, like the reason you have that gig is because you've been in the room, you've been on the field. And so you should be explaining to your audience, hey, this is why this wasn't working for this team or this player. This is why this player is not playing well, or I don't hold this player in as high regard as maybe some of the better or elite players, because that's, to me, what brings your audience in and teaches your audience something about the game. Again, people like me, we consider and say, yeah, so-and-so sucks. Like, okay, fine. That's all well and good. But as listening to a former player or a former coach as an analyst, I want to hear why that guy is not quote unquote any good or whatever, as opposed to you just jumping on a camera, calling guys trash and things like that. Or like Dante Whitner did last week, where he called the Browns defense pretenders. Clearly Dante hadn't watched a lot of film on this Cleveland Browns defense, because especially going into the game, if he did any type of research, he would have known if there's one guy that has Kyle Shanahan by the throat when it comes to one-on-one matchups, it's Jim Schwartz. And what happened again on Sunday? Jim Schwartz improved his record against Kyle once again.
Well, I guess we're all Zach Brown here. We're all in the same boat, baby, because I agree with everything you're saying. All right, so let's do this. We'll come back. It's always game day in Cleveland. I want to talk more about Deshaun Watson. I want to talk more about the defense. Want to look ahead to the Indianapolis Colts. So much to talk about, and so happy the fans were. But there was one thing at the stadium I think fans weren't real happy about, and we'll talk about that next. It's always game day in Cleveland.